So you can have two souls sitting right next to each other. One is in heaven, and the other one is in hell. Because one of them is perfectly comfortable, and the other one is like some people who walk into a synagogue and don't know which book, or what side of the book, or when to sit down and when to stand up. That's kind of hell. So what happens at the end of life? The soul that was invested in the body separates from the body and goes back to where souls come from. So what does the body do? From dust you are, and to dust you return. So there's this famous poem, if I remember this correctly, it says, life is earnest, life is good, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. From dust you are, and to dust returneth, was never said of the soul. So what goes back to the dust? What came from the dust, which is only the body? Where does the soul go? Well, like everything else, it goes back to where it came from. Fully alive, with its memory intact, with its relationships in place, still devoted to the people that it was devoted to while it was in the body, and it continues to live. In fact, it continues to live better than it was in the body, because now it doesn't have to accept the restrictions of the body. So the soul of your grandfather in heaven hears you better, sees you better than before he passed away, when his hearing and his eyesight were a little schwach, without the hearing aid. So, the next step in the development of the life settling into the body, merging with the body, is at 40 days after conception. After 40 days of conception, the body has already begun to develop a personality. It's already either male or female. It's becoming a mensch. The next step after that is 3 months. The 3rd month of pregnancy, the soul and body have really merged. The body is now alive. 5 months is the next, and then birth. Concerning birth, King David makes another amazing statement. We've all heard this, but we didn't realize what the significance is. Even as I go in the valley of the shadow of death, I am not afraid, for you are with me. Everybody knows that psalm. What's he talking about? Where is this valley of death? And why does he go there? He was talking about the birth. He remembered being born. He remembered being conceived. He remembered being born. And here again, very traumatic, scary. The reason it is so scary is because for the soul, this is a major change. The body doesn't know the difference, but the soul does. And when the soul goes into panic mode and is feeling contractions, the body of the baby also experiences the contraction of being born. So whatever happens in the spiritual eventually is reflected in the physical. The happier the soul is to be in the body, the healthier the body is going to be. So King David says like this, when I was going through the valley of the shadow of death, which means when I was being born, when I was in the birth canal, I had left a perfect life inside the womb. It's heavenly. I'm not yet breathing on my own outside the womb. It's a valley. It's a dip between two lives, life in the womb and life outside the womb. And there's a little danger there. There's a hint of death, a shadow of death. And it's very scary. But what kept me going was God's presence. I was not afraid because you were with me. If you read any of the descriptions of near-death experiences, Kubler-Ross, how does she describe it? You're going through a dark tunnel, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and there's an angel urging you to come into the light. Well, actually, that's a flashback to your birth experience. When you were being born, you were going through a dark tunnel, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and there was this guy all in white urging you to come out, because that's what he gets paid for. So when a person has a near-death experience, he flashes back to his original near-death experience. How does King David say it? Shadow of death. You're not dying, it's near death. People who die have a completely different experience. We don't know much about it because they don't talk much. Now, it's still not over. After the body is born, there's again a 30-day period of merging, coalescing, body and soul becoming one. And that's why until 30 days after birth, a child is not yet, the baby is not yet considered viable. Only after 30 days is it a viable child. For a boy, there's also the significance of the 8th day. Before the 8th day, it simply is too dangerous for a circumcision. I don't know what the blood being absorbed in the body, I'm not sure. But until the 8th day, there cannot be a bris. Now, the influence, the intelligence, the morality of your soul influences your body, also in a growing and increasing fashion. By the time a girl is 12, the goodness, the holiness of her soul is fully settled in. For a boy, it's at 13. So life comes in gradual stages and merges more and more with the body until you can't even tell them apart. The body is alive. At the end of life, the reverse process begins. First, there's a premonition. Most people know 40 days before they pass away, they know it's happening. Some are more conscious, some are a little less conscious, but there's an awareness to think about tying up loose ends, saying goodbye to people. They don't realize consciously what they're doing, but that's what's happening. Some people know exactly how long it's going to be to the very minute. So that corresponds to the 40 days that the soul is given just to get used to the idea. The body and soul then begin to separate in stages. It's not a total shock. For the first 3 days after the body and soul separate, the soul can't tear itself away. It's painful, it resists, it doesn't want. We sit Shiva 7 days, because for 7 days the soul is fighting the separation. The first 3 days are the most intense. The second 4 days are not quite as intense. But the whole week, the soul is trying to hold on to the body, refusing to leave. So the Shiva, it turns out, is not really for our benefit to express our own grief. It's to stay in touch with the soul as the soul goes through its transformation. So the Shiva is like continuation of the funeral. Funeral means accompany the person to his resting place. That's the physical part. It doesn't end there. You don't just say goodbye. You stay in touch, in empathy with the soul, so when the soul is really in pain, you feel that pain. When the soul's pain lightens up a little bit, you lighten up a little bit. Which explains a very interesting thing. Why does the Torah tell us how to grieve? Grieve for 7 days and then get up. Whoa, I need 10 days. I need a month. I'm going to grieve forever. How can you tell people how to grieve? And what about those people who say 2 days enough? The Torah is not telling you how to grieve. The Torah is telling you how to remain in sync with what's going on with the soul you're grieving over. And that's why at the end of 7 days, when the soul has pretty much made peace with the fact that it's no longer in a body, you're not being sympathetic anymore. So the Torah says, the Shiva is over. I mean, you want to grieve and you want to be sad about it. That's just your human reaction. But Shiva is over. Then there's a 30-day period, the Shloshim. The soul is still going through major changes. Now it has to get comfortable with being in heaven. And by the way, what exactly are heaven and hell? Unfortunately, we get more of a Christian picture than we do of a Jewish picture. Hell is where the soul goes to be punished and it burns. It's roasted with pitchforks and demons. And how do you burn a soul? You can't burn a soul. The only way a soul can burn is shame. When you're feeling shame and your cheeks get hot, that's burning with shame. When the soul comes to the world of souls and it doesn't remember how to be a soul, it's gotten used to being a body. Maybe it still smells like a body, and it feels really embarrassed and uncomfortable. That's hell. When a soul comes back to the world of souls after 120 years of being in a body, and it just picks up where it left off and just goes naturally right back to being a soul among souls, that's heaven. So heaven and hell are not a place, it's an experience. If you can just slip right back into heaven and be a soul like you were before you were born, that's heaven. If it takes time to readjust, that's hell. So hell is not a punishment. It's a necessary readjustment, a recalculating from the pleasures of the body to pleasures of pure soul. So you can have two souls sitting right next to each other. One is in heaven and the other one is in hell. Because one of them is perfectly comfortable and the other one is like some people who walk into a synagogue and don't know which book or what side of the book or when to sit down and when to stand up. That's kind of hell. It's so embarrassing. So here is a soul, comes to the world of souls, and it doesn't remember how to behave like a soul. How long does it take for the soul to make that readjustment? Maximum 12 months. You know, souls are pretty smart. They catch on quickly, particularly when it's just going back to their original nature. So how long can it take already for a soul to catch on and start acting like a soul? If he's really dense and really thick, maximum 12 months. And that's why we say Kaddish for 11 months. We don't want to insult the soul by saying it needed the whole 12 months. We also don't want to shortchange it in case it does need. So we go 11 months because the Kaddish that we say helps the soul in its readjustment. So, life comes in gradually, life leaves gradually. But what does it mean that it leaves? It moves on. It does not stop living. So we are told a number of interesting things about the soul after it's left the body. The souls always attend the weddings of their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. This is their future. They're not going to miss it. So when at the beginning of the wedding ceremony we sing Baruch Haba, we welcome, people think we're welcoming the bride and groom. No, we're welcoming those souls who didn't get an invitation, but they're attending the wedding. So we welcome those souls up to 3 generations, sometimes up to 10 generations. They also attend every circumcision. The souls of your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents come to the celebration of their great-grandchild's circumcision. The other significant event is at the Seder on Pesach, when you ask the 4 questions, and you say, Tate, ich will bei dir fragen 4 Kashes. You address your questions to your father. And you do this even after your father has passed away. And when you say that, your father's soul comes to hear your questions. Now, you can talk to your father at any time. But on Pesach, there's something special. The presence of your father's soul is so much stronger than usual, because that's the father's role at the Seder. He's not going to miss it. If you enjoyed this conversation or this topic and you're looking for more information, or you want to hear it again from another angle, there's a way to do that, and that is in this book. It's all there. Order it from Amazon. You can read it, reread it, and share it. I want to invite you to join us as VIPs, partners in our work, and join us also for a personal chat with other members of the VIP club. We talk about many things. There's an opportunity to ask, to respond, to make a comment, to meet the other supporters. And together we can really make a difference in Jewish life and in life in general. So join us. It's goodtoknow.org. Log in, call, make contact, and join us with the VIPs.